And we're back. Welcome to a beautiful Wednesday afternoon, friends. You're back with another Real Talk with me, Emma G. Tonight, I am joined by not one, but two phenomenal men who dominate in so many realms of the creative world. We have Greg Banks of Vandabry Entertainment, and we have VR, who is a novelist and a good, like, the powerhouse behind a new film that's coming out, and like there's just so much going on. How are y'all doing?
Pretty
Doing
good.
Well. How are you?
Living the dream, man. I've got my BCCA water in a wine glass because I'm fancy.
Cool.
And essential amino acids when you're working at, I mean, yo, if
getting
we're gonna
those
work
aminos
out,
in, huh?
Gotta have them.
and I'm so fancy about it, you know what I mean? So before we get started, can we I mean, obviously I've given you a little bit of an intro, but can you guys give me a kind of a background of who you are, where you are, what are you doing at the moment, and what's been your journey thus far?
Well, I'd like to kind of give a brief breakdown of what Vandabry has been doing and does, and then I'd like to segue into what VR is doing. Basically, Vandabry, I formed that kind of in tribute to my kids. I wanted a forum where basically we could create entertainment that would be appropriate for them, that they would like, and that they could actually learn a little something before it's done, like the Cosby Show used to say, or the Cosby Kids. Right. So basically what happened was started off with there was mixed martial arts. So we're still exploring that as far as having some competitions. Then we moved on to Vandabry Spoken, which is a spoken word competition. It's hosted by a 4-time world poetry champion, Ed Mabry. And we did a power after show, which both of you guys were in. Basically what it was is that, we had a situation where power was the show. So we wanted to create the first after show that revolved around an African-American show. And we did, and it went on for several seasons. It was formatted in a talk show format, as you know. It was like a host, guest panelists, celebrity, local guest panelists. You guys were in it. Other Atlanta artists like Echo of Atlanta was in it. So basically what happened was they went ahead and stole my format and they created Power Confidential. So, I mean, I guess I got to look at that like, okay, it's a compliment, but at the same time, come on. So basically, we're going to see where that goes. But in the meantime, I'm talking to Reg, who's very VR McCoy, who's very creative. And he let me know he was doing these novels, right? And I saw him and I was like really turned on. It was like science fiction, supernatural thriller action and stuff like that, with a lot of cultural references and things like that. I'm gonna let VR go into that a little bit more later. But I saw what the situation was and I was like, well, you happy where you at? And he said, no. So I said, well, let's ride. So we published him. We published the third novel in his Native Night series called Shaman and Dawn's People. And we got him into audiobook for the very first time. And we're expanding upon what we're doing here. So with that information in the background, I like to segue over to my good fraternity brother and friend, VR McCoy.
Awesome.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And thank you for having me, Emma. Basically, I started off with a crime thriller that I had wrote. After that, I took a little time off and was doing some research into my own family tree. My grandmother is Cherokee. Sorry about that. She's a Cherokee, full-blooded Cherokee, and she used to tell me all these folklores when I was a young kid. So while I'm looking up my family tree, which is Native American and Black American, and I started coming across a lot of things that she used to tell me. So what I did was, and I like to do research for all of my novels. I used crime thriller with some of the folklore that she had told me as a kid. She used to scare me shitless, by the way, with a lot of it. So that's where the supernatural, that's where the supernatural come in. Exactly.
Oh,
Can you imagine you imagine a 9-year-old, listening to this, and having to run home when it gets dark for fear, and that's what her intent was anyway. Bless her
That's
heart.
amazing.
Scared straight.
So, so what I did was I infused the crime thrillers with supernatural fiction and the folklore that she would tell me about, which
That's
is a lot
cool.
of Native American folklore, which you'll find throughout the novels. And from there, I publisher took and called me. He saw the one of my novels. He saw the crime thriller online being published by Amazon, and he asked me if I wanted to publish that. I'm like, no, but I got this great idea for a series. I did the first book with another publisher, and it went bestseller, even international, here in the States and international. Beat out,
Wow.
beat out Stephen King for #1 spot on Amazon for 2 weeks.
Go
And
ahead.
we went from there. Came out with another book that's also an offshoot of the first book. It's like I wouldn't say it's like a uh, it's not really a sequel, but a prequel, because a lot of people was asking me more of a background on the character Christian Sands. So I did a prequel in reference to that, and it's called The Merchant. By the way, the first book is called Shaman, The Awakening by VR McCoy. So The Merchant's a segue, basically giving you some background into the first book, as well as moving forward. It gives you some hints into where we're going in the future of the Natives Nights series. And then, of course, as Greg told you, he came across my work as well. And I really wasn't that happy or piqued with what was going on in the movement that was going on with my other publisher, because they have a lot of other authors. And I want that individuality and someone who just sit down with me and be in my corner and back up my work, so to speak. So we did the next manuscript, which turned into the next novel, which is Shaman the Dawn's People. And it's been doing great on Amazon and all over the place. So you can't even find it at Walmart because it keeps selling out there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you can't find one book there. But it's all over the place in audio, as Greg said, on Audible. If you can find it, please purchase it. But just to let you know, the protagonist of the series is Christian Sands. Basically, most of it's built upon him. He's mixed of mixed heritage, Black American as well as Native American, and he acquires these abilities from his Native American heritage that assist him in tracking down and hunting supernatural serial killers.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Basically what he does.
Were these stories that your grandmother used to tell you, were they also supernatural killers?
No, it was just a lot of folklore that's infused in it. For instance, like the Raven Mocker, things of that nature. All of that is Native American, which people don't know. So there are a lot of folklore that's in there. And that's basically what attracted actually a lot of my earlier fans to it, because it was so much research I threw in there, and they saw the realism of the background, yet they also saw a lot of the Native American characters that a lot of people have grown to know about, as I stated, like the Raven Mocker and things of that nature.
That's incredible.
I was talking to him, and it was like he was blowing my mind already with what I was already able to read. So then what happened was we were, we kind of like promoted the book. We went around to BlerdCon, which is Black Nerd Con. Okay. And we went over to that. That's the whole new culture. And we were there and we saw this brother walking around with Viking gear on. So we were like, okay, well, what's that about? And he's like, don't you know brothers were everywhere? So we found out about Viking Quest. So then we go to Viking Quest. And it's like, we put the word out that we're going to try to shoot a short film. What we like to do is we want to try to put this, his works into as many different forms of media as possible, because our ultimate goal is to get it into television and movies. So one of the things we could do is create a short film, give everybody a little bit of glimpse of what Christian Science is all about, and then capture their imagination. And then people could see all the different ways it can manifest. And then hopefully we can parlay that into a feature-length movie. We already have a producer who's worked with Bill Duke, who's already attached to it. He's ready. He's just waiting for the product that we're going to produce. And we happened to go to Viking Quest, talk to the person who's running the show. And she was like, well, we have a nice open field. Let me go ahead and put out, what you guys are trying to do. Next thing you know, we had 30 extras in full Viking gear. Now, you might think, okay, well, what does that have to do with Shaman the Dawn's people? There are Vikings in Shaman the Dawn's people.
Ah, I love it.
There are so many different cultures and characters that are involved with VR's work. And then the wild part is the second day, I'm sitting there chilling with him and stuff, and we're just hashing it out. And he lets me know his plans for the future. I can't say anything. He will assassinate me if I say anything about it. It blow the roof of anything that's out there already so far.
Thank you so much.
Why leave us on that? Why leave us hanging there, Greg? Goodness me.
Gotta do it, man.
I like my inner Norwegian, because I don't know if y'all know, but I'm a quarter Norwegian, so I'm loving that you've got these these Black American Vikings that are involved with this.
They're not Black American though. They're full blood. See, remember we said all these cultures are involved. So basically, Shaman is Native American and African American. A lot of the people he's dealing with, at least in the first few novels, are Native American and Caucasian, because they keep blocking his way of what he's trying to do. And then in addition to that, he's got this mystical clan, totally supernatural, what they got going on there. A lot of stuff being passed down. I don't want to let out too much, so you got to get the novel and check it out. But basically what's going on with that is they're their own little sub-segment, and it's all related to the Native Knights. It all ties in.
It's like
this guy, 40 novels ahead 40 novels ahead in his head already.
That's incredible. You're like the perfect PR guy, Greg.
Absolutely.
I calls it like
that's why I got him.
No, I mean, I love it. And it's been evident in your work with the Power series, your work with, you've worked with comedians, you've worked with actors, you've worked with all kinds of creative humans. It only makes sense that you're now working with, authors and other creative mediums that I think a lot of people don't give much, when you're in the entertainment industry, there is not enough credit given, I think, to people who work in books or in even in print media. You know what I mean? VR, with your audiobooks, are you voicing it, or have you got somebody else to voice it for you?
No, we have actual voice actors who are doing the voice for the Audible books. Actually, the actor that does the audiobook for Shaman the Dawn's people actually did a lot of the books for Walter Mosley.
Okay.
So we were very privileged. Well,
he's got over 50 titles to his credit.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm sure everyone knows who Walter Mosley is. So we got him to do the Dawn's people for us, and it turned out very well. So
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. So my next question, I guess, is like, I mean, first of all, I love that you're so connected to your cultures, especially being a person of color in the States, specifically at the moment, and myself, being from New Zealand, where Indigenous culture is very much celebrated and represented, on a public scale. How does that make you different, do you feel?
I think it gives me more of an outlook in general, in reference to the races. and the melting pot, so to speak, and dealing with different people across that spectrum. A lot of people have problems doing that. Growing up basically in Washington, D.C. added to that as well, because it's such a great melting pot. You got people coming from all over the country, just to
make
be
noise.
there. Absolutely. And all of that contributed. So it's helped me greatly in my career and in my development overall as a Black American. So I wouldn't have done it any other way. I love it. And getting a lot of information, like I said, as a child, from my grandmother to keep that part going on as well. It's just fabulous. I couldn't have asked for anything more. And like I said, I just happened to stumble across. It's been a whirlwind ride. I just stumbled across fusing these two genres together. Like I said, I didn't have any idea that it would just blow up like this. But I had the idea in my head, like I said, and I didn't want to publish the crime thriller because I had this series, like I said, just in my head for the long time. Yeah, like Greg said, I've already got like 10 manuscripts that's not published just on that series, and other things that's fused in novels that's linked to it. So it really helped out a lot. The American, Native American folklore culture that I've infused with the crime thrillers. And as I stated before, being of having the heritage that I have and growing up where I have, it's just been a blessing.
Well, I mean, but see, his culture knows no bounds because he doesn't have Viking in his ancestry. He acts like he acts like it.
That's just research.
He acts like it.
I love that.
That's just great research.
But we got like so many different cultural melting pots in there. Tell them about Izzy.
Well,
tell me about Izzy. I'm so
not going to say much about Izzy, but I will tell you about Izzy. He's the protagonist of The Merchant. And the reason why is because all through the novel, I leave hints on who he really is. So for me to just say who he is right now would
no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Novel. But Izzy's a supernatural immortal that runs a nightclub, not a nightclub, but a speakeasy in Prohibition, New Orleans. And if you know anything about Prohibition, New Orleans, it was accepted. You had speakeasies all over the place. That no one was raiding your clubs or anything like that because that was their revenue back then. I mean, you had gangsters, which a lot of people don't realize, coming from up north. Most of the gangsters from New York and from Chicago, they actually came down to Mississippi, to the Delta, to purchase their alcohols because it was so much easier to just go right back up to Mississippi. People think it came from Europe, Canada. No. And basically, Izzy runs a speakeasy in
the joint is
Storyville. In Storyville. Storyville is a and let me just segue this. Most of my novels have a lot of Black history in it as well, and most people don't know about Storyville. And what I try to do is teach something in reference to our history. Storyville was a red light district in New Orleans during the Prohibition, and basically Blacks ran it, and a lot of the revenue came from Blacks and Black gangsters doing, believe it or not, alcohol, selling alcohol to a lot of the gangsters from up north. And that's the part that a lot of people like to leave out. Yeah, absolutely. You have a lot of renowned gangsters who were back in Storyville. True story. Like I said, I see your face. Look it up. Storyville's a true place in Prohibition, New Orleans, which we ran. And it was basically a place that the the local government knew about, but it was bringing in so much revenue during that time, it was okay. Where other people were trying to just like basically hide or wither down, the speakeasies and the selling of alcohol, like you saw up north. They're crashing these places and this and that, but not down there. It was accepted. And as I stated, I like to teach people these things because I remember I was telling one person, and I'll end it at this. I was trying to tell them about Storyville, and they thought I was talking about an ABC show. Yeah. How did you get this ABC show back in Prohibition in your novels? Well, no. Storyville's a true place.
That's not it.
Do your history. It was ran by Blacks, red light district, and basically that's where most of the people got their alcohol from, believe it or not.
That's amazing.
In that time.
So during, like, I mean, I imagine that, much like being, a self-employed person, there are a lot of impacts that can come from being in quarantine, and there can be a lot of those impacts can be quite negative, but a lot of those impacts can be positive, especially when you're creative. How has being in, having this pandemic, how has that affected your, not just your productivity, but your creativity, your mindset, your well-being, and just your ability to kind of keep pushing forward, not just writing, books, but also doing audiobooks and planning films and planning series and doing all of the things that you are just killing the game at?
Well, number one, because we're living in the age of information and communication, it really hasn't hurt the
creative process.
Literary industry because you have electronic books, you have audio books, you can get them all online, so to speak. Barnes and Nobles, I love this place and I hope it remains open, but there's so many bookstores that are closing due to this. So it didn't really hurt the literary industry, the COVID. But me personally, it's been a cornucopia. I mean, I'm living a dream watching the pandemic. It's giving me so much creative ideas. I'm sitting here watching stuff that I can include in my novels. As a matter of fact, the latest novel that I'm writing right now, I actually have that in there. The pandemic is the aftermath of the great pandemic. So I'm watching things play out and I'm like, yes, this is good. I hate to say it that way.
That's 2 novels ahead of the manuscript he just sent me, and I'm in the middle of editing.
Yes, it is.
Oh my goodness.
It's 2 novels ahead, but still, I mean, I'm basically living the dream as a supernatural fiction writer, watching all this play out. I mean, where I'm in Atlanta right now, but I went through Atlanta Saturday night at 9 p.m., took pictures of it. It looked just like a screenshot from The Walking Dead, the beginning of it, when the streets were just empty. I mean, really, this has been great for me. I hate to say that. It sounds weird. You have to remember. You got to remember what I write. I'm a supernatural fiction writer. I'm down here in Atlanta, and I'm looking around like, yes.
Well,
that's amazing.
See, this is the point of the program. Well, how about to put Rage on mute a little bit, VR on mute a little bit, because it was horrible for me.
Yeah, so tell me about that for you, Greg. Like, how's the pandemic been affecting your work?
All right, so here's what's happening. Number one, I'm an altruistic guy. I try to be. All right, so I try to get there on the front lines and help. I went down to help people in Haiti in the middle of the earthquakes. I don't want to be there on the center line, right? So I left one job that had nothing to do with what I really like to do, okay?
Right.
And I was setting up to move to a new location and go ahead and get my license in that area and move forward. And that whole process should have took 2 months. But guess what? COVID time, all right? So that slowed down the whole process. I was watching a lot of my colleagues on the front lines battling this whole pandemic. I couldn't do anything about it. You know, got that situation. I'm a guy who thrives on structure. I got to have some type of skeleton to work with. I didn't have a skeleton. I'm like, I want to work. And then, you know, we got that situation. And at the same time, you know, what we're doing, we're trying to build up everything that we're doing with VR to get it to that level so that other financing can take over.
Right.
So I don't, at this point, we don't have a source of finance. So, but that happened for like 6 months. But thankfully, I was able to, everything got straight with the license. And then the people said, oh, well, you got to get credentialed first. So that was another 6-week delay. But as of this week, I'm back. So now we're about ready to start taking off again.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's I feel like the pandemic has definitely, like, while it's given everyone time to pause, that pause can be so beneficial when it comes to bouncing off again. You know, it's just kind of like that draw back and like, okay, now we're good. Let's go. Let's hit the road running. So beyond the pandemic, there's been obviously a huge political outcry that's hit DC, Atlanta, the country, the world, and especially being that this, these books that you're writing, you yourself, the life you're living, really talks a lot about racial diversity and diversity of character. How is the political outcry affecting your soul, your work, and your sort of your creative output?
Well, in the first book, you'll see a lot of that in The Awakening, just based upon Christian Sands being of mixed race. And what he goes through, the struggles he goes through, is similar to the Black Lives Matter struggles. I mean, you see it every day today. My protagonist went through it most of his life growing up as a kid.
Catching it from both ends, though.
Yes.
Actually catching it from 3 ends.
Yeah, absolutely. And for him to come out,
Native American, so he's not Black enough, he's not red enough, he's not white enough.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what the strange thing was, though? In the beginning, it seemed like the novel was living that life as well. It was hard for it to be accepted in several communities. The novel wasn't Black enough, like Greg just said. It wasn't Native enough. So the novel itself went through exactly what the protagonist was going through, being accepted in this culture or that culture. When I'm posting it in Black book rooms, things of that nature on Facebook and things of that. When I'm posting it in Native American pages, things of that nature. It took a while, but then after a while, people started reading it. They were curious and they got into it, and they realized that the work spoke for itself, So, and like I said, it took off, became an international bestseller, as well as a bestseller here in the States. It was republished in Spanish, Italian, and French. And one thing that no one expected was the Italian version actually went bestseller here in the States, as opposed to overseas. Yeah. It went bestseller as well, the Italian. I don't speak Italian. I didn't know there was that many people here reading it, alone speaking it. Yeah, so that's one little novelty that is credit to that as well. So
that's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate that.
So how do you celebrate yourself when that happens? Both of you. How do you celebrate you've just gone bestseller in several places around the world. How do you celebrate that kind of success? Do you celebrate that kind of success?
I'm like, write more.
Yo!
What I basically do is break out a nice, good cigar. And I'm basically a homebody per se. I don't do a lot of hanging out, things of that nature. I'll break out a cigar and just have a nice whiskey or something with it. Call up Greg and see if he's trying to go to my favorite cigar bar, which is actually a speakeasy also.
I'm sensing some sort of parallels here.
Absolutely, living the dream, right? So
that's awesome.
that's how I do it. It's just quiet.
Okay.
Know? And
which is not quite what Greg does, I think.
Yes. I'm just so thankful,
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So how are you managing to stay so positive and, busy and like productive during this time?
Well, one thing is that it's escapism. It keeps us rooted because, like he was saying, he's going through a lot of these structures. There is a lot of racial conflict in the novels, and it's all valid. It happens in real life exactly that way. But at the same time, then we get to go off into the supernatural, and we get a little escape and some things that are not part of what we normally experience. So it just kind of takes you to that next level. It is a form of celebration in and of itself.
That's cool. That's cool. Are you both, so Greg, I want to pick on you for a bit because I feel like I've been picking on VR a little bit too much.
It's so good.
For your sort of processes, Greg, because you do so fucking much in so many areas of the world. I didn't even know that you went to Haiti to help out. That's incredible. But you are an entertainment enthusiast. You manage, you do PR. You are, you work in corporate circles. How do you manage it all, especially during this time?
It's called ADD.
You actually have ADD?
It wasn't officially diagnosed, but I'm damn sure I do. Because what happens is I have to stay busy, and I'll do what I can in one area, and then I'll almost finish that, but then I'll get distracted by something else, but then I will come back and finish the job on the other one. So, I just have to be doing multiple things at the same time. And Reg and I both, with DNR and I both pledged a fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi, and during the scroller period, during the scroller period, that's where our pledging period, that was ingrained in you. So I kind of thrived on a lot of that because you were able to, it kind of like took whatever you were able to accomplish at one time and kind of magnified it because you have to accomplish these tasks in a short amount of time in order to keep people off your back.
Gotcha. Real talk, I don't know anything about fraternities or sororities or anything because I'm from New Zealand. We don't have that kind of culture there. Can you tell anybody who's listening from New Zealand or Australia or any country that isn't the States, what is fraternity life? What does it mean to have a fraternity brother? What does it mean to like that? Because that's a lifelong relationship, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good. So I'm not completely misinformed. Okay.
So, it's the thing. It's like some of it's in your blood, depending upon what your family line is like. Some of it's what you experience from what you're surrounded with. I'll give you an example. I'm sitting there, and I went to University of Miami first before I went to Howard, and I fell in with the Kappas, the Noops there, and I was like, okay. I came home and I said, Dad, I think I want to pledge a fraternity, right? Because I don't see my dad like. First of all, let me tell you something about you got the Kappas who did the Kappa Alpha Psi thing. You got your Noops who are real Kappas.
Noops.
And then you got your Z Noops who don't wear a lot of colors because we know who we are.
You've already confused me. What are the Noops?
It's Kappas in the heart, never depart. All right.
Okay.
So basically what's going on. So I didn't see a lot of things around the house. Okay. A lot of paraphernalia or anything like that. So I come home to Dad and I'm like, I think I want to pledge a fraternity. He said, oh yeah? And he said, what fraternity you think you want to pledge? I said, Kappa. He said, you ain't know your old man was a Kappa, huh? And I did. So so that was also at Howard. And then he told me about my uncle. My uncle's name is Max Julian. He wrote and starred in the movie called The Mac, who's been sampled in over 250 hip hop songs. And he's pretty much a legend. He wrote the first Black Western called Thomasine and Bushrod.
Yeah.
And he was in the original Black Klansman. And he also wrote something called Cleopatra Jones, which is
Cleopatra Jones.
Yep.
What?
So, with all that, you know,
even this Kiwi knows like about that sort of stuff. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So you know, with all that going on there was a lot of family stuff, but I didn't know about the family stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like fate. You know what I mean? And it was good. And then I fell in, you know, with brothers like Reg, and Reg, when I didn't know where I was gonna go with it, Reg was like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. I don't know if it's gonna work out." He's like, "You're tripping. Get back in it."
Well, you forgot this part. You forgot this one part. While he was down in Miami, even then we had a link, Greg and I. I went to school actually with Leonard Washington, who was down there, and he was a Kappa. And he knew Greg. And he told me about Greg from down there. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So that's how the fraternity is, you know, and especially in DC because it's so small. Like Greg, my family is just Noops and Masons. But I actually did grow up knowing about them. And so, but yeah, it's the fraternity is just so massive yet so small when you get down to it because we're so bonded. And Greg knows what I mean by bonded. So that's awesome. Yeah, it's great to have just that bond and that shield to rely on nationwide and all around the world, to be quite honest with you.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. In 2011, we celebrated Kappa's 100th anniversary.
Absolutely.
Well, on December 27th, 2020, we will celebrate Z chapter, our chapter's 100th anniversary.
100 years, 100.
Yes.
Bloody Z.
That's awesome. Will you be celebrating via Zoom?
No. Because I don't care if we're the boy in the plastic bubble. We're gonna be the Noops in the plastic bubbles. We're gonna make this happen. It's gonna be a celebration.
No doubt. It won't be Zoom.
I would love to see you guys all walking around in plastic bubbles. That would be hilarious.
Not happening.
There'd be a lot more Kappas if they had that cushion.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I want to ask both of you, because you know you both do so much. What got you started, and B, started. Sorry, that's me trying to enunciate my what got you both? I feel like I have to repeat myself continuously in this country because nobody can understand me.
I understand you.
I do too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
What got you started, and what is your why?
I'll let
you want to take this? You want to take this first, VR, or you want me to take it first?
I'll let you go first. Yeah.
Okay. What got me started is being a kid. All right. Back in the day, you know, I was an altar boy, and well, it didn't turn out too bad, thank God, because first of all, they knew that my father was a maniac. So there wouldn't be any transgressions. I was a Catholic altar boy. You know what I'm saying? There wouldn't be any transgressions because they knew there'd be some repercussions.
Damn, dude.
You know what I'm saying? So I had a safety net. All right. So, but basically going through that, you know, all that Christianity and stuff like that is kind of indoctrinated into you, and the good and the evil and things like that. Now, when I was a kid, my pop used to take us down to the Kwood Theater, and we enjoy horror movies like vampires and werewolves and things like that. And I actually remember we were coming back, and he had a whole bunch of neighborhood kids with us, and we were walking through the forest because he liked to play games like that. So, you know, everybody's already scared from the movie, and we see a bunch of things flying up in the air, right? And he said, they're vampire bats. And of course, everybody's like, no, get out of here. And he lets out a screeching yell, and the bats went crazy because they operate by sonar. And when they heard the sound, they just went nuts. And it was like, okay, I'm all into this horror thing. I'm all in. so I dug getting scared from an early onset. Supernatural thrillers, horrors, alien, all that stuff, man. Was just off the chain. Couldn't get enough of it.
That's hilarious. I'm like the worst person to like when your movie comes out in VR, I will totally take my partner, but I will spend most of my time hiding behind him. I am so bad when it comes to scary movies. Wow. But sonar and bats I'm totally done with. So that's cool. That's awesome. What about you, VR?
With me, I'd say it was my mother. Basically, she was a supernatural thriller fan herself. And I used to sit down and watch a lot of the old horror flicks with her. I mean, really old. She liked old films, black and whites, like I did. We'd watch Lon Chaney. I mean, you name it. Back in the day, Bela Lugosi, people like that. Yeah. I mean, just she enriched me with a lot of that because she was such a fan herself. And then, as I stated, I'd have my grandmother scaring me with these folklores, trying to get me to come in. Yeah, trying to get me to come in the house at a reasonable time and things of that nature. But at the same, but yet at the same time, you know, enriching me with her culture as well. So that's what got me interested in the genre, basically. And I mentioned it in the first novel as well, how my mother, I give her credit for it, bringing me into that fold. And as I stated, the combination of the folklore, Native American folklore, and the crime thrillers, which working with DSS, Diplomatic Security Service, gave me a background into all of it. And it worked out well, as I stated. Wouldn't trade it for anything at this point. That's my why and how I got in it.
Is there anything like, I mean, you've already achieved very high success internationally, both of you. What, like, where to from now? How do you break the ceiling further?
Well, basically, as Greg stated previously, we're trying to get into media. Had several people come to me about doing a TV series on The Merchant, which I told Greg about. Greg's doing the short film, and we're going to go from there. There's so much that we can do media-wise. But I tell you, you know, as I stated earlier, I try to infuse a lot of Black history in all of my novels. Things that you probably didn't read about or knew about in school, just based on my research. So like any other artist like yourself, I use it as a platform to educate as well, besides entertain. And that's the greatest gift I think this really is, and to have fans are still entertained by it, and who can come back and you see their reviews and they're like, wow, are you a shaman? No, I just do a lot of research, and my family, wow, I didn't know that occurred back in Prohibition. I'm like, yeah, you know, check it out, look it up. And we're going to continue going further with that, using this platform to educate, entertain, as well as enlighten people to current affairs, like Black Lives Matters, things of that nature. With Elizabeth III, that's a novel that's currently being edited. And basically, it goes, it's supernatural, of course, but it takes place in Washington, D.C. and
Nice.
I'll yeah, and I give a lot of credit to the medical field, which my mother was a part of at St. Elizabeth Hospital.
Okay.
And that's basically, like I said, what I try to do with my novels. You're going to find entertainment aspects of it. You're going to find a lot of realism as well, because I
Mm-hmm.
do take from my personal history and my personal experiences. Uh, Unlike certain things, I just got to say this. That's why he's laughing. I went to this women's book group. They wanted to talk about my novel, and it was one of my first book signings, and I was just read during the whole entire thing. They fed me and everything, and they just wanted to know about the R-rated scenes that Christian Sands had with his female lover, and I'm there like, is this like you? Are you like Christian Sands? Yes. And my face is just blood red. I'm like, whoa, I did not expect this. They wanted to talk about all the sex scenes and things of that nature. I'm like, whoa.
Did they have singles?
Calm down, Gregory. Calm down.
But
that's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
I get 20%.
I pull from a lot of
no.
exactly right. I pull from a lot of real experiences for fact, and a lot of the characters are based upon people that I know or see, but of course I would never say who they are.
Of course.
So that's
I don't even want to know that side eye means.
No doubt.
No, I'm good. So it's funny. So I'm this next question is gonna possibly be a little bit offensive, and I apologize. I think there's
it's not, trust me. She doesn't know where we're from.
We're all friends here. I think there's a common misconception about authors being very in their own headspace, very introverted, very whatever a stereotypical author looks like. I think a lot of people think of, what's his name? I can't even think of names right now. Stephen King. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm thinking of right now.
I whooped his butt for 2 weeks. Yeah.
You what, sorry?
I whooped his butt for 2 weeks.
You whipped his butt for 2 weeks. You mean on the bestsellers?
On the bestsellers.
Right, okay. But you like when I Google you, what comes up like beyond your your books and your masterpieces, like you have these pictures of you like looking like the next He-Man. Like you are buff as a mother trucker. So I mean, part of me is like, and I'm only saying that because you just gave me crap for working out this summer and having my biceps and triceps and all that shit sorted out. But do you think that might have been part of the reason why all these women were oogling over you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not counting that out.
Okay, so as a man,
you're a bad girl.
I am a bad girl. What's up? As a man, like, no, real talk though, like as a guy living in a patriarchal world, because it is, and knowing that women, like that sort of shit happens to women all the time. How did that feel to have that role reversed for you?
As I stated, I mean, in the beginning, I was thrown, I was speechless. Right. I didn't expect it. And like you said, it was a reversal. I felt like a piece of, I don't think I'd say piece of meat, but I felt like I was, how can I put this? I felt like an item for their dessert. Because like I said,
you loved it.
It was in a dinner setting. I appreciated it, Greg. I did, but like Emma said, it came as a shock because I didn't expect that. And don't get me wrong, I was raised by strong women, and I enjoy strong women, strong, intelligent women. But like I said, they put me on the spot, so it was quite different, as opposed to, like you said, in a patriarch type of society, you're used to seeing men like doing the wolf whistle, women going down the street, things of that nature, and it was totally reversed on me. And I was thrown, to be quite honest.
Well, see, it got even worse because, I mean, you got that situation, right? So then we're filming the first segment, the first scene of the short film. All right. We happen to stumble across a Native American, African American actor. His name is Lion Beckwith. And by the way, he's going to be in Wonder Woman 84 coming out shortly.
Yes.
Nice.
Yep. So basically this dude, all right, if you look on Facebook, you'll see the pictures of us together. And this dude looks like he needs a pair of shorts for his arms because he's got thighs for arms.
Okay.
So I'm like, damn, man, can somebody give me some weight so I can catch up to these two brothers? But yo, I did want to mention one thing about Lion. Lion is an award-winning actor, and I like to call him Swiss Army Bro, because anything we needed in the production of this film, he produced the director of photography, he produced half of the cast. Man, he was just incredible, and anything we needed, I mean, he was indispensable. We really appreciate having him in our camp.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
That is awesome. So when are we looking at having that film out?
Well, now that we got some financing, I'm hoping by the middle of 2021.
Okay.
Yep.
And that'll all that information will be obviously out on the Vandabry website, correct?
Yes.
And we'll be looking for some musical.
I know some people who do music.
Yes, I think I do too.
I know just the thing.
See, I remember us discussing this, you and I, at the Power.
Yes.
And I haven't forgotten.
I mean, I appreciate that. It's always funny because to a point, going back to the patriarchal society, I'm never quite sure who's talking spit and who's, but you're one of those few human beings, both you and Greg, who have you're led by authenticity. And that's one of the things that I really love about working with you and knowing you and being in your circles, is that and just being in DC at large, there's a lot of people who just, they say something, they mean it, they come through. So I really want to pay respect to you both for that. It's something that I think as a naive Kiwi, when I first moved here, everyone's saying, watch out for those fucking Americans. They were all talking, and I'm like, actually, we good. Everybody here, especially in DC, everyone's family, and I love that.
Absolutely.
So what is one thing that you've learned about yourself during this pandemic?
Go ahead, Greg.
Oh, no, we're going to switch it up this time.
I just got finished talking.
Oh, Jesus. All right.
I'm just kidding. I can go.
I'll say it. It's going to be real fast. I need structure. I need structure. That's it. I need structure. I operate most efficiently when the pressure's on and when I'm doing multiple things, but I have a base.
Okay. That makes sense. What about you, Ria?
I've learned basically that during this pandemic, I'm the type of person who really does enjoy that isolation, because I can accomplish a lot as a writer. You mentioned introverted. Yes, most authors, we almost have to be. We have to go to our inner self, our inner space, and just be with that without outside distractions. And during all of this, like I said, it provided me with that, and not a lot of distractions. It allowed me to get into my creative side and just bring it all in. But I also learned that during all of this pandemic, I got engaged.
Congratulations!
Yeah. Thank you. I got engaged.
That's phenomenal.
Yes, you know.
But I beat him out though. I beat him out though.
Right.
It's not a competition, man.
What's always with this dude? I know, right? What's
always a competition.
Okay, go ahead, Greg. What happened?
Through all the isolation and being locked in is assisted with getting to know my future wife and partner for life. We really got to know each other even more so.
Super ever. Congratulations, bro.
Thank you very much. I thought I told you about that.
I'm coming to the wedding.
Of course.
No, I think that's an amazing success. There's so many people who have really found the isolation to be quite confronting, and so when they're either in relationships or married, they sort of forced to be with each other 24/7. You're like, actually, I don't know if I like you too much.
Exactly.
So it's wonderful.
Can I get away from this person?
Right. So it's wonderful to hear the stories of people who are like, actually, I do really love you. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Was there anything else that you kind of wanted to get off your heart today, or let the people of the world know before we bid our farewells?
Look out for us. We're on our way.
Oh yeah.
We're on our way. Trust me. Look out, world.
And check our dude out in Wonder Woman 84 coming out soon.
Word. And of course, if any of you watching back at home you do obviously want to know more about what's happening in the world of Vandabry. So head over to vandabry.com, which is Victor, V for Victor, A for Alpha, N for November, D for Delta, A for Alpha, B for Bravo, R for Romeo, Y for Yankee.com. I used to be a travel agent.
I see.
But I wanted to let you get that all out before I have to say the site is under construction. Go to the Facebook and Instagram pages.
The spelling is the same though, so there we go. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Thank you for your
having me.
Ongoing positivity, creativity, beautiful magic that you're spreading around the world. Greg, you look like you want to say something. Talk to me, sugar.
With sugar. Emma G, love you. I miss you.
Absolutely.
This is a big hug for you.
I'm feeling it in my soul.
Likewise. Likewise.
Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Be good, be kind, spread love like it's going out of fashion. Be your own kind of superhero. And please, for the love of science fiction, mystery, suspense, and thriller, goodness and magic, please make sure you go to Amazon, check out the books, and I will see you soon. Don't forget to call your mum. You can't control it.